Hey guys, and welcome back to another video for the Porsche Cup car here for week 7 at the Imola circuit. My name is Emery with Veloce Vex. This is Coach Dave Academy that you're watching. Firstly, let's get into the hot lap. So let's get into the hot lap guide then for the Imola circuit. Now, I saw a few of your comments on a previous video, I believe it's for week 5, just regarding the field of view and also brake bias and sort of telemetry and things like that. So for this week, I've got this little box you can see down here, which should show you my graph of my braking. So you'll be able to see the telemetry, exactly what I'm doing through each corner. So it should be a bit more insightful for you guys. So hopefully that's what you guys wanted. As well, I've also changed my field of view, just my cockpit camera you would have seen on the hot lap. So you can see my brake bias down the bottom right there as well. So that brake bias figure, that minus 6.5, that's off 50%. So minus 6.5, obviously I'm running 43.5%. But yeah, heading down to turn 1 to get the lap started then. Obviously a very long straight, so just make sure you're getting a good exit out the last corner. Not running too wide, just to make sure you straighten it as much as you can. And heading towards turn 1. So I'll just stop it for you here. So it is actually quite a tricky braking zone to turn 1, obviously very high speed, heading down into the braking zone. You're looking to brake just after the 200 meter boards, up here on your right hand side. So you're going about 80-90% on the brakes. Holding the brake, you see I'm trailing all the way in. I'll play it through for you again just so you can see my brake trace. See, I'm trailing all the way in to the apex and then back on the throttle and then out of the chicane. Now, one thing I would mention, obviously, is make sure you're opening up the corner as much as you can. So play it through here and then making sure you're not touching these sausage curbs. That's not the theme for the whole track, but for this part of the track it is. They just really unsettle the car, especially as you're turning in and also trying to exit the corner as well. So just make sure you're not hitting those curves basically. And back on the throttle, and again just not touching those sausage curbs. Then through turn 3, again, you don't want to hit this curb too much. You can touch it slightly, just on the apex, but not too much other than that. And then using all of the track for the exit as well. If you do go too far past the drain, you will get an off track. So that's one thing to look out for. And also make sure you're back onto the track before you hit the grass as well. Obviously, you will get an off track for that, especially in qualifying. Something to look out for. Also notice, as I think the session time for this week is at 12 o'clock, which means the track's quite cold generally. So it is quite difficult, especially in qualifying, to get temperature into your tyres. And most likely in the race, you'll just be getting quicker and quicker until the last few laps where the tyres will start to drop off. But anyway, heading down towards the next chicane, obviously sticking it to the right as much as you can. into the curb, and you notice this time we're onto the sausage curb as well here. So this is one of the corners where you can use this sausage curb. Slightly different for the next one, but what this curb enables you to do is just open up the next right-hander. So you're sticking it as far to the left as you can, and then back across. You don't want to touch this curb too much, just as it will launch the car up in the air and you'll lose acceleration. So just be careful with that one. Back on the throttle as early as you can for the exit, and also just making sure you're not running too far onto this Astro. All four wheels over the edge of this curb, and you will get an off track as well. So just be careful with that one, guys. I'll play that through for you in one fluid motion, just so you can see the telemetry at the bottom. So get onto the brake, just trailing in, keeping it to the left, and then back on the throttle as early as you can. You also notice I wasn't overlapping the throttle and the brake there. That is something you need to look out for, as it just costs you lap time. So if you go back through your telemetry, just make sure you're not overlapping too much with the brake and the throttle, to make sure they are separate inputs. Coming into the hairpin then, I'm sorry I don't know the exact corner names, but we'll just go for the hairpin. Obviously sticking it to the right hand side to open up the corner, you're braking just at the 50-meter board, and then you're just looking to get a really good exit, so you're going in quite nice and deep, and then back on the throttle as early as you can. Now I think we had this track on the calendar last season as well, guys, and I mentioned then that there's a couple of different lines you can take for this corner. Now if you're struggling for grip, the best thing to do is probably to round the corner off. But if you're feeling really confident on the brakes, you can V off the corner. So you can apex early, get all your braking done and slowing down on the apex, and then accelerate out. It'll obviously decrease your minimum speed, but the exit should be slightly better, and also you're carrying more entry speed in as well. So I chose for a bit of a more rounded line. This is on the fixed race set, so the grip isn't optimal, the setup's not optimal. So that is something to bear in mind as well on this lap. Heading up the hill then into this blind left-hander. As you arrive, you can't really see too much, and you pop over the crash. You're braking again just at the 50-meter board, just before maybe. I didn't hit it on this lap, but you really want to be all over this curb. It just helps with the rotation. Also, just look out on the exit for the rear end stepping out. You can see I had a bit of a correction here, just so you can notice I'm opposite lock slightly. So just be careful you're not lining up the rears too much. And then in regards to the exit, you can use, again, pretty much up to the curb, all four wheels. Imola used to be a lot more lenient with track limits, and then a couple of seasons ago, they've just made it way more strict for some reason. It's kind of killed the track in terms of the flow a little bit, but obviously it's still Imola. Still a great track, but you just got to be a bit more careful where you place your car. Then you plunge back down the hill into the first of the right-handers. Now I start braking on the entry here, again with the 50-meter board. You just start trail braking into this corner. Otherwise you're going to just overshoot the entry and you're going to lock up and go miles wide. So just make sure you're braking into this first right-hander. And then carrying that brake all the way through. And then back on the throttle as early as you can. Also short shifting here as well. So I'll play that through for you once more with the telemetry at the bottom. So flat out, starting to brake, just holding that brake all the way into the corner, and then on the throttle as early as you can. You notice on the exit, I'm using a lot of the track, and again, just as long as you're within the edge of the curb, you're all fine with an off track. Also, just make sure you're not hitting this part of the sausage curb either, as you will just get a load of opposite lock on, unsettle the car quite horribly. So that's pretty much as close as you want to get, maybe slightly closer. You want to turn in quite late for this one, just to make sure you get a good run back up the hill. But yeah, back on the throttle, up over the crest, and we head through into the chicane. Now again, this is one that's been really nerfed by track limits, so you can't throw it as too much as you would have done over the curbs. Again, you're braking, and actually in fact you're braking just after the 100 meter this time, about 80 meters or so, into the first of the chicane. And out of the chicane as well. Now, really careful here. If you go, I think the limit here really is the edge of the curb here. If you hit this green Astro, you get an off track. And if you hit this part too much as well, you get an off track. So be really careful, especially in qualifying, because it's so easy to do, especially when you're looking for those couple of attempts to make up your lap. Just be really careful with that. You notice with my brake trace as well, I'll just play it through for you in one motion. So braking, trailing in, slight bit of throttle midway through, and then on the brake again, you'll notice. So I'm back on the throttle here, braking here, just to get that extra rotation, and then back on the throttle as early as you can. In regards to the exit, you can run again just out to the edge of the curb and you won't get off track. So it's quite useful to use all of this Astro just to make sure you can get the throttle down a bit earlier. We then head down into the penultimate corner. Now just time to obviously think about your braking zone. Now obviously it's downhill as well, so that's something to bear in mind. It's going to be a lot harder to brake. You get this sort of gravity is going to be going against you slightly. So brake slightly earlier than you would usually. You notice I'm braking pretty much, say 150 meters. So the 100-meter ball's there, and we're braking about now. Also, you want to turn in a bit earlier than you would expect. So you're aiming really for this part of the curb on the apex. This curb's really important because you get a lot of rotation. If you miss it, you're going to have to delay it on the throttle. You're going to lose lap time, and you're just going to lose a heap of time. So you notice I'm all over that curb quite early as well. Like I'm apexing really early just to make sure it's rounded off as much as I can. You can use all of the exit pretty much. Again, just make sure you're not going over the edge of the curb. And then into the final corner, using all of this apex curve again, and then on the throttle as early as you can to close the lap. We'll just play that through for you once more. So braking in a straight line, turning in nice and early, rounding off the corner, and using all of the exit curb and AstroTurf, and then cutting that corner again as much as you can, using all of the exit as well. But yeah, that completes a lap of the Imola circuit, obviously keeping it, hugging it to the wall, and then straight line towards the finish line. So that was the hot lap guide then for the Imola circuit for week 7 of the Porsche Cup car. Hope that was useful for you guys, and obviously the added telemetry and a few other things as well was useful to you guys as well. Obviously make sure you head over to coachdaveacademy.com for all the latest data packs. Obviously check out the Discord as well if you've got any questions, let one of us know. But yeah, my name's Matt Emery. It's been Veloce Vexed, and I will see you next week for week 8. So take care, guys.